Welcome to the Linux Spotlight. This show is dedicated to showing off the best thing about Linux, our community. This community is made up of developers, distro maintainers, YouTubers, and everyday users. Each one plays a vital role in our community. And the goal is to have a discussion with each individual about their journey into Linux and beyond. So join me now as we turn the spotlight on. Hello, I'm your host Rocco, and with me today, our special guest is my friend, Matt. Matt, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Rocco? Appreciate you having me on, bud.
Awesome. So this is Matt from the Dark1 Linux Tech and Gaming channel. It's a mouthful. Say it 3 times real fast.
Or you can just shorthand it to Dark1 LTG, make it a little bit easier.
Okay. All right, Matt. People will have undoubtedly seen you in all of the different communities that we are a part of. Destination Linux Network, Linux for Everyone, Biddle, and countless others, including your own community. You have your own YouTube channel, which we will get into, possibly. But first, let me ask you, who is Matt personally?
Matt personally is pretty much what you see on YouTube, just a whole lot calmer. No,
are you sure about that? Because you're not calm in your videos.
What I mean is I'm very upfront. I don't like putting on personas and all the other stuff that goes with it. I'm very to the point, and sometimes that cuts people the wrong way. But for me, I just like being honest, and that's really the biggest thing for me. So some people can take it, some people can't. That's kind of how I view it. Other than that, I'm just a guy who's interested in the 3 things that my channel focuses around, really. Likes technology and gaming.
Nice. I love it. All right. What do you do for a day job, Matt?
I work in retail as a manager, and I'll let people
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do.
I have been there. I'm sorry.
It's a long trip, but hey, it allows me to do the things that I like.
It's all that matters.
Exactly.
All right. What about hobbies, dude? Do you have any outside of the Linux tech and gaming stuff?
Actually, surprisingly, most people would find it weird that I'm actually quite the music enthusiast. I like a bunch of different kind of music that I actually get into. Like on my YouTube channel, I've done a few music reactions here and there, but music is kind of one of my favorite things to like dissect and just kind of listen to, and it's like, oh, okay, that you hear different elements and you just kind of dissect it and stuff. I like actually reading these weird things called books, like actual books.
Actual books. That's awesome.
One of my favorite book series is by an author called Chris Bunch. He did a space opera type of sci-fi book series called The Last Legion, which is probably one of my favorite book series. So those are just some of the things I'm into. But my main sphere is pretty much, again, what my YouTube channel is, which but those are some things that some people probably wouldn't know about me.
Right. Well, so you said that your music taste is all over the place, but do you have something that you kind of gravitate to more?
It really depends on my mood, honestly. I'm a late 90s, early 2000s kid as far as like my late teenage, early adult years. So I grew up on like 90s hip hop. I got into, when I was living up where I'm originally from, I got into the metalcore scene pretty much. So then I got into video game music, and I've gotten into country recently, as you've seen. So my music taste has kind of evolved and changed, and just kind of whatever just happens to suit me at the time. I really don't have one genre that I really gravitate to more than one, because I find that if this is the only sphere you go into, you're limiting your kind of view. And that says, like, to me, that says a lot about a person.
Right. Well, to be honest with you, dude, if you looked at my Spotify list of liked songs, there would probably be every genre in there as well. So,
Oh, dude, as an example, like the first thing I do when I nuke and pave a machine, the first thing I do is go to ocremix.org and I download like 4,000 video game remix songs. Like, and they are like EDM, they're
yep.
pick your pick. So like I totally get it.
Nice. Very nice. All right. So, your work, it has nothing to do with computers. So, what do the people at work, how do they react to you when they hear you talk about Linux, or do you talk about Linux there?
It depends. There are some people who are like into computing and that kind of thing, like some of the younger generation that's going to school and that kind of stuff. So they somewhere like looking at comp sci and that kind of stuff. So they have to kind of know about it. There's a few enthusiasts that I've worked with that have known about it, but they haven't really gone into it. If it's the general people, they look at you like you have three heads. But that's generically if you talk to them about anything technology related in general. I've just learned that some people are not, nor do they care about tech.
Right.
Some of us, however, we do. You, me, other people, we really care about tech. So, I can't blame them, but I think they're limiting their potential as a person by not engaging in the technology, at least.
Yep. Well, how about your friends and your family? Are they Linux users or no?
My family knew. I've converted some friends over to Linux. That was an interesting experience, because it wasn't the way to that I've learned to try to kind of get those guys over to a different platform. It's not about the OS. Like the underlying thing is that they don't care about it.
Yep.
It's the apps.
Right.
So if you get them on the apps on the other platform that they're on currently, you change the base, they don't really care.
No, doesn't matter too much, does it?
I'm just saying, like that's been the most successful I've been with that. But no, most of my I'm about the only tech guy. I'm the family tech guy. Let's just put it that way. When it comes to my family, I'm the one that gets the phone call from Ma. Is like, how do you copy and paste kind of stuff? You're just like, Control C, Control V. Ma, I told you this back when I was 16.
But you know what, though? We take that stuff for granted because we use it every day. We know about it every day. But, you just were talking about people that don't care about what the underlying system they use is. And they're never going to remember those things, not because of anything other than it's not in the forefront of their mind to remember. They don't care. All they're really trying to do is read their email or look up this thing on a website,
I was gonna say, my dad's self-employed, so like he just his machine is like an appliance. It runs this one application. He doesn't care.
Right.
So Control Alt Delete gets you to the task manager for Windows. That doesn't mean anything to him. His is just okay. Hold the button down for 10 seconds and it'll reboot. That's their solution. Like, okay, yeah. So but talk to my dad about cars or anything like that. He grew up on that stuff. So like, it's just a different area of interest. So like, I get it, but like, nah, I'm very much the tech guy and only tech guy in my family. So
I got it. All right. So we're going to get into Linux, obviously, but let's start back at the beginning and tell us what the first computer that you used was and when was that?
Oh, the first computer. That was probably that was probably late 89, early 90. So you're talking maybe an Apple II.
Right.
That was back in school. I think it was first grade is what I remember. And man, times are different then. Let's just put it that way for computers. That was my first computing experience. Then my dad got it, went from all the paper stuff for his business to a computer, and then MS DOS was the thing, and then 3.1, and then I went to Windows 95, which was like my first like, here's your computer, but this is also when computers cost $5,000, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, you have 133 megahertz processor and 8 megabytes of RAM and a gigabyte hard drive, and that was considered, top end.
Top of the line.
And that's just what I remember as my first computing experience was really Windows 95, though, where it really was like, okay, I'm old enough to like really like, this is mine kind of thing.
Right. So when is it that you hear about Linux then?
I think the first I heard of Linux was either in 98 or 99. I don't remember exactly what year. All I remember was hearing about this, because at the time, the internet was still the new thing, but it was a lot of bulletin boards and our BBS and stuff. So for me, I used to venture into that territory. I didn't use like Usenet and all the other nonsense that a lot of other people did, but I was more interested in like, what's it like to be connected to like this database of information that's supposed to like the internet superhighway back in the day. So for me, it was just, you heard about this free operating system, but like, I didn't have 40 floppy disks to download on over a dial-up 14.4 connection, or if you're high-end 28.8,
Right.
the size of a ISO or whatever. I don't even remember what it was at the time, but so for me it was probably 98, 99.
All right. So you hear about it, but like, what makes you want to get into it? Like, what makes you want to try it?
One of my computer friends, he somehow got into Linux through a free disk that came in like PC Mag or so. It was his disk was a Red Hat disk, and it was just like he installed it on pretty much. He tried installing Linux on everything at that point. Like it didn't matter the computer. But for that, to me, was really when I first tried it. But that was when I started working. So like for reference, I was born in '84. So for me, I'm 16. So I'm going to start working. This is when you could go back to Walmart and buy a box copy of Mandrake or Red Hat next to that box copy of Windows XP, Windows 2000 or ME if you were that unlucky.
ME. Oh yes, I remember ME.
My sympathies to anybody who does.
Worst operating system ever made.
Followed closely behind by Vista.
Well, I mean, I think, okay, so see, I didn't have a huge problem with Vista because I kind of liked the way it was going, as far as the way it was heading, as far as they were becoming modern and stuff like that. Vista was not a bad operating system as far as using it, I didn't think. It was the hardware support and the driver support that was just absolutely terrible, that made it unusable.
Bingo. Well, my thing was, I was one of those people who bought Vista Ultimate. Try having a GPU that doesn't work.
It was pretty bad, man. It was bad.
Thanks, NVIDIA.
Yep.
But for me, like, that was probably the first time I actually, and the discs were like, they weren't that expensive, like what, $30, $40, $50 at most. They weren't expensive in comparison to the thing I was sitting next to.
Right.
So I bought a copy of Mandrake because I believe it was KD2, maybe I think it was 2. And it looked, it had that Windows look.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're like, oh, this is just like a different flavor of Windows almost. Lo and behold, it's not quite that, but
not quite.
But so like that was I think that was, oh man, I don't remember the versions of Mandrake at that point. I think of 5.2, something like that. It just looked a lot easier to install and use, or it claimed to be anyway, than Red Hat. from
All
my
right.
prior experience with my friend trying to install Red Hat on everything.
So give us the lowdown. What was that Mandrake like when you first installed it?
Wintel modems I found are not fun. For those that don't know, either write your own drivers or compile over a dial-up connection. You figure it out which one's going to be a great experience.
Obviously both, right? I mean,
yeah, it just stellar. I think I'd rather be sick.
right. All right, so there had to be some good things about it though, man.
Actually, the thing that blew my mind at the time was the multiple desktops. And this is before all the flashbang of like Compaz and Barrel and all the other stuff. But like it was weird, but like, oh, like there's different workspace, like there's this different workspace that I can switch to that I can have these other applications open and I can switch back to like that was because like at the time, like multitasking in Windows was just not a thing you did. Like Windows was like Mac. It was like a one purpose machine. Like you ran one application at a time, and that was kind of it. So some would still say that's what a Mac is now, but that's besides the point. So for me, the experience was just small things like that. And it's like then you find out like once you start getting into it, it's like, oh, this is actually like I could have gotten this for free and I didn't have to pay for it. Like when you're 16, cost is a thing. Like you're like $50 for a 16-year-old and like 99's like well, there's half my paycheck.
Yeah, that was a lot of money back then.
So now you're like, okay, so it was an interesting time, but as far as usability, yeah, no. As far as like the install, getting printers to work, some would still say that's a problem.
Well, I don't know. I think that printers have come a long way in Linux as far as most of the ones that I do hear bad stories about some printers or scanners not working, but most of the time when I install a distro, the printer is already recognized and ready and set up for before I don't have to do anything.
Well, that's why I said some would say. For me, I don't print enough stuff, so I really don't worry about it. But at the time, this is either cups was just becoming a thing or was just a thing. But like a lot of the stuff was just not there for basic functionality,
Right.
and it really limited its use.
Well, I think also too, printing was bigger back then because you didn't have all of the online stuff like you have now, the cloud stuff, and you couldn't access your documents everywhere. And, so printing was a major thing back then too.
Yeah,
So it
definitely.
kind of seemed like this big, huge issue, because you needed it. Like nowadays, I rarely print anything. Once in a while when I need to, but rarely.
I think we're all in that same boat, though.
Yep. All right. So, you try Mandrake. Do you go back then to Windows or what?
To point into reference what this machine, the Linux distro of choice at the time, Mandrake was installed on. This was a 233 megahertz processor,
Moving up in the world
with 32 megs of RAM and a 4 gigabyte hard drive. For those that want reference, this is when the 17-inch flat screen CRTs were a thing. So they're like
there you go.
Think the big old box TVs that sit on the floor that sits on your desk. Basically what it was. That machine I kept Linux on because I could do what I needed to for the bare functionality that I needed at the time, and it was more of an exploratory time for me as far as my technology enthusiasm and that kind of stuff. So Linux stayed on that for a while. I don't think I really went back to Windows, barring using my family computer, because that was my like little toy computer. Go break it, we don't care.
Yeah, right.
But don't mess up the business computer or we will mess you up. Was kind of a thing. So Windows was still basically the primary interface for the most part, but my hobbyist OS at the time was still Linux.
All right. So do you still use Windows or Mac in any way?
I use all three.
Nice.
I use Windows 10. God forbid, some people are not going to like that. I use a Mac OS because I cannot talk about something if I do not actually use it. And obviously, this particular video is being done and recorded on Linux, Endeavor to be exact. By the way, I use Arch.
By the way.
Just for you, Dusky.
Mm-hmm. All right. So on your personal computers, the one you use, like the main rig, basically, you say Endeavor OS.
Mm-hmm.
You've tried 1,000 different distros in your life. But on your main machine, do you want just one that is a stable machine, or do you still distro hop on it?
I take a weird view when it comes to computing. I tend to view computers as tools. So I view them in more of an appliance mentality. So, example, this machine that I'm using for this is my content creation. Yeah, it has a secondary purpose of playing some games here and there, but like it's
Of
very,
course.
well, of course, if it can, why not? But as a content production, I just need certain applications. So for me, it's not about the underlying OS as long as I can have the applications that I need. And that's why I have that mentality of how I switch people to, because if you have that mentality, you understand what they're looking for. But if I also, we'll get into this, but if you look at this thing, that is, that's a single purpose machine of an HTPC. Like that's
Right.
it. That's its purpose. So stability is something I care more about for that.
Right.
Whereas on a production machine, I need the updated NVIDIA drivers. I need the newer versions of OBS. Certain improvements in like Darktable and Glimpse and some of the other applications that I use. Like that's the stuff that I'm more needing than stability. Luckily enough, I don't care enough, so I can nuke and pave, and I'll, give me 20 minutes and I'll be fine.
It's such a good time that we're in that we can do that.
Yeah, if this was 99 again, I would not have done that.
No. Well, okay. So is Endeavor your choice of distro right now, or what? Or is it just something you put on?
It was the one that solved the problem with this particular machine.
Okay.
I had a few snafus with I was running Manjaro, which is Arch base, but it's not Arch. If you're an Arch user, get over it, whatever. For me, I had some issues with NVENC and some drivers and some FFmpeg stuff that it just wouldn't recognize NVENC anymore. And I record in 1080p 60 using NVENC.
Yep.
Well, or do I record in 1080p 60 on a CPU bound? No.
Nope, not gonna happen.
I can do it on the machine, but it texts the machine, so I can't like playing video or any like doing the reaction stuff that I do. Oh, you ain't gonna get that.
No, not with playing a 1080 video and trying to record 1080.
Exactly, it's all CPU bound.
Happen.
So my primary is generically whatever I find suits the machine more than anything else. I tend to be pretty agnostic when it comes to my OS. It's more applications. So Endeavor currently, that's actually running Manjaro, and the ThinkPad is running Ubuntu Budgie. So it's kind of all over the place.
So are you, I know the answer to this question, but are you a KDE guy? Or are you a Gnome guy?
See if I can be polite on this. I tend to be a Plasma guy, generically. In fairness, I do find certain things about Gnome, to be aesthetically pleasing by default, as opposed to say Plasma by default. Like if you do like a bare like KDE Neon install, I'll go with Ubuntu every day.
Right.
There's just certain things about it that turn me off. But the problem is I was a Unity user for a really, really long time.
Yep.
So I have a particular workflow. So a lot of things have to go to the left. It's just how my mind works now. From 2011 till they killed Unity, basically, even though you can still install it. And that was my desktop of choice. So for me, that mindset makes Plasma a better workflow for me because I can customize it to that more or less with some tweaks. And I do some really weird tweaks. And some people are like, why do you do that? Because it makes sense to me.
Well, speaking of weird, dude, let's go back to that piece of machine behind you that you showed us. Now, you have we'll just say you have an eclectic taste for computers and things, and you always have. It has some weird specs. We'll just say this. So give us the specs on this and tell us why this type of hardware appeals to you.
Okay, so for those that don't know, this is what they call a Toshiba Satellite U845W. The W is for wide. This is a 14.4 inch ultra wide ultrabook. So what does that mean? It's a 21:9 aspect ratio ultrabook.
Yep.
At 14.4.
That's what it is.
This thing is I kid you not, is lengthwise as wide as my 17-inch workstation.
Okay, so why? What would this type of machine appeal to you? Why would that happen?
This particular machine appeals to me because of it has actually nothing to do with the 21:9 aspect ratio. This machine at the time when the first time I had one, had some of the best speakers on a PC that you could possibly get because they're built in Harman Kardons.
Right.
And there was a function that allowed you to charge your iPod, pick MP3 player or phone or whatever, and you could hook it up to this particular machine and play it through your speakers. And that to me was just like, that is awesome.
Yep.
So it's stuff like that. So as far as the weird hardware, I can tell you,
but this is not the only weird hardware you own, Matt. I mean, let's be real.
If you're the other piece of weird hardware you're referring to is the Sony Vaio 11 that I have.
What makes that unusual, Matt?
That is a slider PC. For those that don't know, unfortunately that's buried right now, so I'm not going to have time to dig that out. But that particular machine is literally think the Asus Slider tablet that came out, 2011. Same kind of deal. You pull up on the thing and, hey, look, your tablet is now a keyboard and type deal.
Right.
The thing is, the reason I look at some of the kind of these weirder things, because another one is they have like the giant Remix OS tablets. The reason I look at that kind of stuff is because that type of stuff, it's not just about innovation and that kind of stuff. It's about people actually trying things. It might not stick. It might not always work. It might not look the best or be the best, etc. But it's people and companies, etc., trying something different.
Yep. And thinking outside the box.
And to me, that's almost to be, because like I said, I have a ThinkPad here, which is about as plain as you can get when it comes to machines. But to me, companies who think outside the box often don't get enough credit. So like for me, Sony's always been, at the time when they were still making PCs, was always one of those companies that really thought outside the box. So like, they used to have those old UMPCs, like the sliders and stuff.
Yep.
Like that stuff to me is interesting, more based on the fact that this company is actually trying stuff, not going with the status quo of the same beige box as Steve Jobs would have said at one point. And to me, that's something that we should be commending and kind of looking at is like, what ideas can we pull from that? So like when I see things like the Surface Pros and that kind of stuff out and about now, I view it as like, okay, that's an iteration on kind of that slider design to me. So because it's a tablet, but it's also a PC. So
yep. Hey man, I give you a hard time about it and I tease you about it, but I totally agree that thinking outside the box is not the only thing, but is one of the major drives behind us getting new innovations from companies. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not, sometimes they fail. But if you didn't try, you're basically going to get the same old, same old.
Well, exactly. Like as the best example of iterative design or that kind of mentality, look at we'll go to the gaming end of things. Look at a Wii U. You would not have the Nintendo Switch without the
Right?
Wii U.
Yep. But some people that don't like change, but they don't like the same. You know what I mean? Like it's weird sometimes. They don't want things to change because but they don't want them to stay the same forever. When they see new features on this, they're like, "Oh, I want that." You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, it's one of those. I like that and I want that, but I want it in this box. And it's like, no, you can't have that in this box because that's not how it works. Like it's one. Sometimes it's really a one or the other, and that's it.
All right, let's get into your YouTube channel, dude.
You sure you want to go there?
Well, I don't know. I guess we'll play it out and see what happens. You have made a lot of videos. So let's start with the channel itself. YouTube actually started in what, 2005, I think?
Late 2005, early 2006, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And your account has been open since 2006. Now, the oldest video I could find from it was 2008.
Mhm.
I don't know if you had older videos on there, maybe?
The YouTube account was initially created because I wanted to watch TV shows. Like everybody else in 2006 and 7 and 8, YouTube was the place to go for, hey, I want to watch TV shows and these guys aren't letting me.
Right.
Yes, my first actual video was 2008.
Okay. So, and the first video that I found wasn't even about Linux. It was about politics, I believe, of all things.
When you're 20, let's see, that would have been 2008. So I would have been 23. When you're in your early 20s, you tend to think you know everything. And you kind of view things in a black and white, and there is no gray. Unless you're causing people that have gray hair like Rocco.
Right. Exactly.
I did a few videos on local politics. That was when I did have an interest in it. I had a very political view on the world, and that it's kind of changed over time. But my first Linux video was actually the very next one.
Yep. Well, you've created, dude, 408 videos from my count. And it actually goes by your name now, where it's Tech Gaming and Linux. That's basically what your channel was even then. So you had a different name when you started. But, what drove you to, so you started by watching TV shows on YouTube, but what started you out to put out content on YouTube?
Well, as far as like the local, the first video was just kind of a local video for, like, at the time would have been MySpace and Facebook and like that, those kind of, yes, I remember MySpace. For a time to, hey, this is when you could share more locally and granular than you can, where it's kind of a shotgun now and it just goes wherever. So like that first video was more for like, this is just a local video for how a local person sees politics, a young person at the time. Now when I got to the technology stuff, that was just general interest. I've always been a tech guy. I've always been interested in computing, etc. So for me, it was just like a natural progression and extension of who I am. So that first video was an interesting video because I was new-ish to Linux, but not really.
Right. Well, okay, so again, you originally had a different name. So back then it was Dark1 778, and you recently changed it, but how did you go about picking your first channel name? And maybe then you can tell us why you switched it to the new name.
So the first channel name, Dark1 778, actually was an email account I had set up many moons ago. It's a At the time, I was probably 17, 18 when that email was created, and I grew up in a very conservative household. You know, we went to church every Sunday. I went to a private school that was at that church. I went to youth group, so I was at church 6 days a week, and being a rebellious 17, 18-year-old, you do some things. So for those that don't know, 777 is supposed to be God's number. It was the Dark One is supposed to be a play on that. Unfortunately, 777 was already taken. So I went with Dark1 778.
So you couldn't have the name you wanted anyway. God knew. What you saying?
You did.
All right. So why did you change your name to Dark1 Linux Tech and Gaming?
I've been looking for, oh God, probably 5 years to kind of figure out, like, YouTube is, I hate the term branding, but it's like identity. Like,
Yep.
like
it's branding, dude. There's no way around it. I mean, that's the way it is.
Branding, SEO, call it whatever you want. But for me, it's just like, what is my channel really about? Like what, so I have to look through this backlog of, I only had like 200 videos at the time, so I didn't really have a lot at the time. So I had to look, see, well, like, okay, where's my area of interest and where's that intersect of interest? So, I've always been a technology guy. I'm using Linux like 85, 90% of the time now. And I'm a gamer. So it's like, well, okay, gaming, Linux, technology. So like it just made sense to me to kind of still keep the Dark One portion, because that's what, a lot of the people in the Telegram channels that I'm a part of and the communities, everyone's like, oh, it's Dark One. At the time it was 778. So I was just like, okay, I'll just change it to Dark1 Linux Tech and Gaming, and then I can shorthand it like on Twitter to Dark1 LTG. So
right,
it was just kind of a natural progression of my thought process for my, like, how I wanted to produce content for my channel.
Yep. All right. So let's get into some of that content. You recently made a video, and it was entitled "Why I Will Never Support the No Tux No Bucks Mentality." And in this video, you used very colorful language to describe how you felt about all of this. I just want to maybe see if you can tell this story of this no tux, no bucks mentality in a safer work environment. So go ahead. You got 5 minutes.
There's been no clown noise yet.
no clown horns yet, as we speak.
So basically that entire video, there's this no tux, no bucks mentality. Basically, for those that don't understand what that means, is if you don't support Linux like natively, then you don't get my money. That is the basic mentality.
Right.
For those that don't understand where that mentality comes from, the mentality comes from when The Witcher 2 was first released for Linux by virtual programming. They used a piece of tech that much is really kind of like Wine. It's a compatibility layer. I believe it's called Aeon, if I remember correctly. Other games have used it. If you have Spec Ops: The Line on Linux, guess what? It's because of that.
Right.
But in fairness to the complaints, the release of The Witcher 2 initially, the initial release of The Witcher 2 was very badly optimized. It ran badly. Anybody who bought it, all that stuff, total legitimate complaints as far as like performance and just
Right.
like, graphic degradations, and it's like, oh, hey, look, all these textures are black. Like, so like there was legitimate complaints, and everyone's like, oh, it's because it's not native. It uses a compatibility layer. It uses a wrapper. Take your, terminology pick there. And that's where kind of the mentality comes from. But this is CD Projekt Red doing this not because they want to, Well, they wanted to apparently, but not because they have to, but they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And they get crapped on. And like some people went so far as like death threats and just like dumb stuff where you're like, guys, do you like know where your place in the market is? Like honestly, like in the grand scheme of gaming, especially on Linux, like I'm going to be generous and say 2%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
out of 100 million Steam users, we'll just use Steam as a, you know, base platform for it. You're 2 million users at best. Where do you think developers are going to put their resources that are finite, despite what you think?
Right.
Where do you think they're going to put it?
It's a shame, dude. It's a shame because it's always that chicken and egg thing. You're never going to get more users until you have more games. You're never going to get more games till you have more users. And I mean, yes, we're in a great time as far as Proton and all this other stuff, but as far as native Linux games, and you just seen it with Rocket League being going to be pulled for Linux native.
And I fall into the mentality is if it runs on your platform, what does it matter how it does it? Like, and that's the thing. Like a lot of like, if a developer decides to port a game to Linux and it uses Wine or Lutris or Aeon or it's a whatever, take your pick. Who cares? Honestly, who really cares? Can you play it and is it running on a system that you prefer? If the answer to any one of those is yes, then you have no reason to complain. It's this, I take it as the same complaints about Electron. While there are technical issues with Electron, we wouldn't have Skype, we wouldn't have Slack, we wouldn't have Discord, we wouldn't have a lot of the programs that newsflash most end users want.
Yep.
And that's what matters.
Hey, I knew players that played Rocket League on Linux that used the Proton version, even though it was native to Linux, just because sometimes it ran better. Or at least that's what they had said. So I personally don't care at all as long as I can play it. I don't care if it's an Electron app as long as I can use the app. That's what matters to me.
And that's the thing. I agree. Like to me, that is why I will never support the whole no tucks, no bucks mentality, because the whole no tucks, no bucks mentality is native only.
Right.
Like I have a preference for native apps, integration, like desktop integration, etc. But really, just like, okay, open Adobe Premiere Pro in Windows. Does that follow any of the design paradigms for Windows? The answer is going to be a giant no.
Well, look, I understand the premise of the no tucks, no bucks mentality. Like, and I don't even consider it like, you had mentioned The Witcher and everything. I don't even look at it even in that vein. Just the idea that if you're not going to make this for my platform, I am not going to buy it. I'm okay with that. And I understand that. But it's certain people take it to extremes and it just gives the whole thing a bad rap. So,
well, I'll just put it this way: people have complained that there's no Witcher 3 officially supported on Linux. Newsflash, guys! Look at The Witcher 2, and you'll see why. It was that response that turned CD Projekt Red off to even remotely porting The Witcher 3 to Linux.
And unfortunately, that's not the only time that game developers have been turned off to the Linux community because of the reaction that they got from it. It's a shame.
It really is, because there are great portions of the Linux community, and like any other community, there are bad players just as well. And unfortunately, the good players don't always silence the stupid ones.
We're trying, dude. We're trying, but it doesn't always work that way.
But it is what it is. So that's really what my take on it is in a PG environment, shall we say?
We got through it without even any clown horns.
And so like that, but that really, that's just my take. Like if like for me, as an example, like I waited over a year to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Why? Because I dropped $60 at the Feral store to make sure they got every bit of money for developing and supporting my platform.
Yep.
That is how you show your support. If something's broken, okay, I'll be a customer and I'll complain, but I'll do it you can do it in a constructive way. Death threats and the other kind of nonsense that goes on is not the way to do it.
Right. Well, the only thing I can say is I know that there are some people who have asked for refunds from, for Rocket League. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, like, that's your choice if you want to ask for a refund. But I can't personally see how I could ask for a refund after playing the game for hundreds of hours and then them saying, you know what, we just physically can't support Linux anymore. I got my money's worth out of the game. I got more than my money's worth out of that game, so I can't see myself asking for a refund.
As far as Rocket League, I have a hot take on Epic, and I'm not going to get into how I view Epic. Thank you for
I don't think anybody has a good take on Epic.
Thank you
I'm
for
just saying.
I'm just going to say thank you for the mega grants to the open source projects that you are supporting. Krita, Lutris, and various other ones. Blender are
Yep.
some, just to name a few.
Well, people view that, Matt, as a play, basically.
I know. It's no different than a play by any other business that decides to join the Linux Foundation.
Yep.
Just let that sink in, guys. Everything any company does in open source, if it's a for-profit company, it's for their bottom line. And a lot of Linux users tend to forget that. So my hot take on Epic is thanks for the mega grants. Thanks for supporting certain open source projects. Your store is still trash. And, if maybe you decided to play nice about being a community supporter and all the other stuff in the gaming community, you might not get all of the backlash that you do.
There you go. There's the message. All right. Your YouTube channel. On YouTube, there's all kinds of feedback, dude. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. But there's feedback nonetheless, regardless of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You made quite a few videos, and your videos years ago, a lot of them were, and I didn't realize this, were reaction videos. Some of them were reaction videos to other videos, and some of them were reaction videos to articles or whatever. So you're used to dealing with people who are trolls. How do you do that? How do you deal with people like that?
Sarcasm and wit. Short version. I'll give you an example. I had somebody come to my channel to troll me.
Imagine that.
Totally, I'm totally fine with that. You will never see me disable comments on a video. I look at any of my purism videos that I've done. I have gotten lambasted in the comments. Totally fine with it. My whole shtick on my channel is to have a discussion, and that's what a lot of my videos are about, and to initiate a different point of view that somebody might not have looked at. So when I do those type of videos, for me, it's just to deal with those type of people. You have to be sarcastic and you have to return the wit, but better. So that's what I do. Literally, I had this person come in and try to troll me on my own channel. I out trolled them, and they were the one that blocked me. Let that sink in. You're trolling me, and you end up blocking me because I out trolled you.
Hey.
And anybody who wants to know how I troll, just ask Dusgeek.
Dusgeek knows.
So does Michael, but not of Text Digital. But that's in a different frame.
All right. You made a video back on March 31st of 2008, and I watched this video, and you were talking about, you mentioned different things. The video was called Linux versus Windows.
Mhm.
And you watched the video, and with the exception of there being a CRT monitor in the background
Told you,
and the
told you, 17-inch. Like, it takes up 3/4 of the desk. I know.
and the pixelated video itself, but if you were just listening to the audio, you might have thought it was like a video from today. Like you talked about, we need more support from vendors to support Linux. You said Dell had just started last year to offer Linux on hardware. Of course, you showed off the cube, so that might give the video away. in this video.
That was Compass. Yeah, that was back in the day.
But we've come such a long way since then in Linux, and yet the same issues seem to be at the top now today as they were back then. So do you think that, what's your take on that?
There, man. Having used Linux for so long, probably in the last, I would say, once Steam was officially announced for like official support, as Linux as a platform, that was when I was finally able to make a switch to Linux, because basically I had mitigated everything out. Like, as a full-time OS. Like,
Right.
if Windows went away, I would be fine for the most part. My flavor in games might have changed, but um, for me, a lot of the problems that were present then are still now, but less so.
Yes.
At the time, hardware support was a thing. Bad graphics drivers. I believe it's FGLRX, which was the ATI/AMD drivers, were, if people complain about NVIDIA artifacting, oh boy, go back then.
I remember ATI drivers. That's why I don't have that's why I switched to NVIDIA from then on, because it was the ATI drivers. And I moved to NVIDIA.
In fairness, the ATI drivers were bad on Windows too.
Yeah, they were terrible on Windows, dude.
So in fairness, they were bad both. I can't speak for a Mac, because at the time they were still using NVIDIA. So, but over the course of the time, I still see a lot of the same issues crop up. But like, our sound subsystem is still god awful. Like, if you look at it, it's still OSS, it's still ALSA, it's still.
Well, that's my point. Are we looking like, okay, so we always talk about how far we've come in Linux today. Are we looking through rose-colored glasses now? Because we still have, like, as far as NVIDIA's come, we still have issues with NVIDIA. As far as hardware support has come, we still have certain hardware issues. Like, are we just looking at it through rose-colored glasses, or are we that far ahead?
We're much further along than we were. If we're talking 12 years ago when I made that video, or close to it, we have come a long, long way. But there are still issues, and sometimes I think we get so overexcited about where we are, we forget to look at what are still problems. Or I wouldn't even call them problems, I would call them more paper cuts at this point. It's small little things that people might not notice. Really, hardware support has gotten better. AMD to me, AMD and distro makers can do better to support each other. Look at the 5700 XT launch, or any of the not so much the Ryzen processors, but any of their graphics stuff. It's been a nightmare if you're on the bleeding edge for AMD and Linux. Just
Yep.
Look at the Radeon 7, the Vega 64. Like, none of that stuff worked out of the box, like on like mainstream distros. That's a problem.
Yep.
Some people don't want to admit it, but it is. And some people say, oh well, Ubuntu has like the hardware enablement stack. It doesn't matter if my graphics card doesn't work. So
Right.
for me, there have been vast improvements, but there's also still areas where we can vastly improve. example, at the time that particular video was made, that was the first iteration of Pulse Audio that went into Ubuntu. That was 804. That version was so bad, I literally had to rip Pulse Audio out of the system in order to actually have working audio through ALSA.
Okay, and that's my point.
So
that was headache with Pulse Audio, and yet sometimes today Pulse Audio can still be a headache. Like,
but it has improved.
Oh, it's vastly improved. I don't want to sound like that. It all of it has vastly improved. It just seems like it's the same issues plaguing us today as it was then.
But in fairness, Windows still suffers from the same issues as well. Mac OS still suffers from some of the same issues as well. But next time you plug in a Blue Yeti into Windows and tell me which port that it thinks that the sound should come out of, it's going to be the headphone jack on that microphone.
Yeah.
So it's not all rose colored over here, but it's also not all rose colored over there. So the problem is other OS users have gotten to the point where they just accept the problems, and they've gotten used to fixing them and solving them and all the other stuff. Linux users were a little more technical, but on the same note, we kind of just want stuff to work too, just like everybody else. Because I got better things. I got this weird thing called time. It's really limited. I can't replenish it. I don't want to. Well, in this mentality, you hear people talk about you only Linux is only free if you don't value your time. To me, that's any piece of technology. It doesn't matter what it is. Linux, Windows, Mac OS, FreeBSD, take your pick. It doesn't matter. Like this particular machine, I upgraded the GPU in it. Windows didn't know its elbow from its mouth on how to actually get a driver installed. I had to use a third-party application. I had to use driver. Anybody who's used Windows, I had to use Driver Booster and actually get a actual driver to install, because the one from the video one and the one from the Windows updates, that one neither. So it's not all rose-colored.
I had a family computer that I removed the video card from. It was an NVIDIA card, removed it, and Linux didn't miss a beat with booting up. Like, you went from NVIDIA to like the onboard Intel graphics, and Linux just booted up like that, and you didn't even notice.
Well, that was the thing, like, because basically the card that I had in here was a Quadro 4000M, which is like equates to like a 480 GTX. So it's like really, really old. I upgraded to a K3100, which is like a 770-ish, more for the NVENC support than anything else. It was the best $35 investment I've made. For those that are wondering how I did that in a computer, like laptop or desktop, whatever workstation, that's what they call MXM cards. You're able to upgrade them and change them, barring you have the right heating and all the other nonsense. So for me, like, Linux didn't miss a beat. It was like, oh, here's the latest driver. It didn't care. I told it to uninstall the old one and install this one, and it worked. Windows, on the other hand, I spent 2 days trying to make it work.
Yes. Yep. That is, and that doesn't get talked about very much, where in that certain scenario, Linux has it so much better over Windows. You could sit there and pull your hair out with NVIDIA drivers on Windows if you change something. I mean, if you change something at all, you are going to pull your hair out of uninstalling the drivers, rebooting, making sure it goes into the Windows driver first, and then reinstalling the NVIDIA driver. And yeah, I mean, that's an area where Linux got it all over Windows.
I agree. And again, my situation was really unique. I'm not going to state otherwise, but it's still a thing. It's like a fringe case. But even those fringe cases, the people who have that fringe case matter, and time matters to those people.
Yep.
So,
all right. So, with the YouTube channel for so many years, dude, what would you say to somebody? What advice would you give them if they were looking to start a YouTube channel? Maybe some obstacles that you encountered?
That first 1,000 subscribers is going to be your biggest obstacle. I'm just going to say. First, I would honestly say a lot of people are going to tell you, "Oh, get like the best camera you can." Newsflash: you have a great microphone and you have a great camera, probably in your cell phone.
Yep.
The production values that you see on a lot of the higher end people, MKBHD and all these other guys, they're shooting in 8K with red cameras.
Red cameras, yes.
Like give me a break. Most of these people, most of us can
and that's how much the cameras cost too. 8K.
That's
Maybe
on
more.
That's on the conservative side. But it's like, as an example, like my phone right now is a OnePlus 17. Like that's my daily driver. I can do 4K. I can do USB-C with a microphone, and you can buy microphones for USB-Cs for like absurdly cheap to get decent audio quality. So for $40, you can have a wireless mic and a 4K camera. All you need is the stand to hold it.
Right.
Like people. So lighting and audio are really the biggest things that I would ever push somebody to. Now, if you're on a budget, you can do it all for free too with Linux. Now, if budget is a thing, if it's not a thing, I'm going to tell you probably use some proprietary software because that's a thing.
Best tool for the job, right?
Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But for me, some of the obstacles is if you're looking for partnership with ads and all the other stuff, that 4,000 hour yearly average, that's going to be hard just getting started. But find your niche, whatever, decent lighting, and spend $40 on a wireless like lav mic or a headset or whatever, and just use your phone.
Yep.
Really, like I've shot video, like you've seen some of my videos. I've literally shot them from my phone and just upload them.
Yep. I think the biggest thing, dude, to me is just putting the videos out that you want to put out rather than what you think you should be putting out or what other people are putting out.
That was the other portion. Like for me, I ask, like I've done community polls and all the other stuff, and kind of, you want to engage your community, but you want to stay true to who you are. Like the thing that I find that bothers me with YouTube, like YouTubers, is a lot of them are very disingenuous. Perception, my perception of some YouTubers. So I want to make that clear. A lot to me, a lot of people just put on a facade. They put on a mask, they put on a facade, and that's just who they are. Whereas, ironically, some of the best advice that I've ever heard is actually been from for YouTube has been from the wrestling industry. Let that sink in. No, what it is, take who you really are and just amplify it. Do people really think I'm that loud and that abrasive and like generic conversation? I mean, you've had enough with me. Let's be honest. I'm not that loud and that abrasive.
No.
I can be, but
that's not who you are.
But that's a character trait that I amplify.
Mm-hmm.
But it's part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. And finding the content that you want to make, though, that's the key. And you just hope people kind of want to join you on that ride for it. So every piece of content I do, it's because I want to make it, not because I feel I need to, or I have to, or somebody's telling me to, or some SEO algorithm is telling me I need to. If what you enjoy doing becomes something that you don't enjoy doing, and it just becomes a job or whatever, then you might want to reanalyze why you're doing it. Because
super important.
Well, because for me, if I went back to like doing politics or like all the other kind of stuff that like shotgun approach that I used to take with my channel, I would bang my head against a wall because that is not stuff that generically interests me. And I'm gonna be honest, like those particular topics tend to be like the cesspool of responses on the internet. So it's like I'm just gonna do the stuff that like makes me happy. So like Linux gaming and technology, making me happy. So I'm going to talk about them.
Well, Matt, on your channel, I originally thought, like, I see you do these reaction videos, right? And I originally thought that, you had kind of changed focus, but
Mhm.
you really hadn't changed focus because you've done reaction videos through the whole history of your channel. So yeah, I mean, you have one way back in January of 2009 called Dear Abby.
Oh,
Was
God.
that, do you remember this video?
Is that the one about the college dropout?
About not being able to use Microsoft Office on the computer? And so what I'm saying is you have done reaction videos for a long time.
Mhm.
What draws you to the reaction stuff?
The polite version is how can I word that? Ignorant.
Clown horde coming.
No clown words. What draws me to doing those videos is I want to see if people are trying to actually look for help or if they're just trying to pass off ignorance as knowledge. The reason I say I can't speak on something if I haven't used it is because I want to eliminate the ignorance portion. So, as an example, anybody who's noticed, I don't talk much about iOS. Why? Because I haven't probably used it since version 7. So I can't talk about it. I can talk about BB10. I can talk about whatever.
Right.
I can only talk about what I use. And that to me matters so much more than anything else. So there's a lot of misconceptions about Linux that, people talk is knowledgeable, that it's like 20 years out of date. And literally, there was one video that these guys were doing a video on, and they were, oh, there's no easy way to format a disk in Ubuntu for Gnome. And they plug in a USB drive and it shows up in the dock at the time, and you right click on it and it says format and it brings you into disk to format the thing. Like, and they're like, oh, it's so much easier in Windows. And you look at them and you're like, so literally in the video, I dropped down to my desktop and I right click on the thing and it was like, oh, hey, look, format. Like, it's that, or the same group of guys, they did another video that talked about video editors. And I looked at them and was like, now video editing is a sore subject for some people in Linux. Totally get that. But like, there's like, oh, there's no good video editors in Linux. And they're like, by default. And I looked at them and was like, okay, Windows 10 doesn't have a video at the time, didn't have a video editor by default. iMovie doesn't come with Mac OS by default anymore. Newsflash, you still have to download them. And the thing that, like, what really got me into doing them was stuff like that. And it's like, it boggles my mind. Like, at the time, these guys had like 6,000 subscribers. And I'm like, do you guys know, like, your head from other areas? Like,
Right.
seriously. Like, so it was like those kind of misconceptions that really got me into really doing the, like, on a more steady basis, the reaction videos. Because it's just like, it hurts to watch. And there's been a lot of videos that I've reacted to that have hurt to watch, but the ones that I love to actually react to are the ones that are look at and then, kind of give feedback, etc. Are the ones that are actually looking for help, that are looking for like are genuinely either interested in the topic that they're talking about, actually knowledgeable somewhat in the topic they're talking about, or seeking knowledge. And to me, the seeking the knowledge part is so much more important.
Yep.
And I'm not going to claim to be the most knowledgeable Linux user. There are far, far better people at that knowledge base than me. But I will be the first to say, if you're looking for knowledge, look in these communities for it.
Yep. So there are the whole community, the communities that are in this general vicinity have so much knowledge that it's unbelievable. You can step into any one of them at any time and somebody's helping somebody out with a problem this person's having. And there's always somebody that knows how to fix it. Always.
Yeah, well, it's like, this isn't like tooting my own horn or anything, but it's kind of like Lana Evangelo when she was trying a Ubuntu for the month or whatever she was using it for at the time, and she wanted the desktop cube.
Yep.
It literally took the 30 seconds, or okay, it was about 4 minutes, but whatever. In Plasma to show how, hey, this is how you get the desktop cube. There you go. It's small, it's stupid, but it's like it's 4 minutes, and somebody might find it useful. They're sharing some knowledge, whatever. Like that to me matters more. I actually like sharing the knowledge. The ulcer-inducing videos make me want to hurt myself.
Well, I think you do yourself a disservice. I think you have a vast knowledge of Linux. Obviously, nobody knows everything, but you have a very high knowledge level in Linux.
I, okay, let's just put it this way. I'm never gonna be a. I think I don't downplay it enough sometimes. No, honestly, again, there are far better ambassadors to do what I do. I'll be the first to say that if you ever watch any of my content, I am not the best ambassador. I will be the first to admit that, because it depends on how the person is approaching the video I'm looking at.
Right.
And if it's full of dumb, I'm gonna.
Well, look, dude. Out of all the videos you've made, do you have a favorite one?
Do I have
one that maybe you enjoyed the most making out of any of the others?
Man. Honestly, I can't really say one or the. There's not one particular. I think it's probably a theme of just in the channel, my channel in general, where I prefer the videos that I enjoy the most are the ones that I'm reacting to where people are like, "Hey, I'm looking for this." Like they're looking for knowledge, they're looking for a place to go. Like the person who is having DaVinci Resolve problems, and they're asking questions, and they're like, "Why isn't this working? Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this work?" So you're like, okay, like your approach is to seek knowledge. So I'm not gonna poo-poo all over you for seeking knowledge. If you were just like, well, the videos I tend to like are those, because those are the ones that are willing to engage in a discussion of like, hey, how can we help? And to me, those are the ones that matter the most. The ones everyone seemed to like, um, those are the ones that hurt the most. And I guess to steal a line from certain people, I guess Linux is supposed to hurt. So
Right. Not anymore. It's not. Not anymore.
Lies.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I know you're a gamer. I know you've made videos about gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Your part of your channel's about gaming. What kind of games do you enjoy playing? Has that changed maybe since from going from Windows to Linux?
Well, here's the thing. There's a reason I keep a Windows machine.
Me too.
Oh yeah, it's called $10,000 worth of investment in games. That's why I keep a Windows machine. For those that are wondering, I have about 650 on. It's close to about 1,000 across everything. That's not counting all the stuff that's back there.
Yeah, that's not counting all the console stuff.
Which PS4, Wii U, PS3, Switch, and something else. Dreamcast, Genesis, and PSP up there.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm a gamer, just a little bit.
I'd say.
For me, gaming is. It depends, because there are days where I just want to play some Warframe, where it's just like I just want to shoot some things in the face. I'm not looking for a story, or like. Oh, okay, let's be honest. Why does somebody play Battlefield? Why does somebody play Call of Duty? Like some days you just want to, competitive game. Sometimes there are days where I just want to relax. So I'm going to play like an RPG or I'll be more specific, Japanese RPGs, because I find that they tell more unique stories than Western RPGs, which tend to be very samey and fantasy setting and magic and, well, quite frankly, boring. So to me, like, it depends on my mood. Generically, I'm more of an RPG gamer. I like good stories. I like good gameplay. that's just kind of my thing. I guess that falls into because I like reading books, so I might tend to be more into the story based stuff than say the new COD or the new Battlefield or whatever. Doesn't mean I don't have them. Just doesn't mean
Right.
they're like my go-to games.
Well, the newest thing in gaming, it seems, in the last couple months anyway, has been the streaming of game services like Stadia, now GeForce Now. What is your take on this?
It's on live 2.0.
That's you remember on live? It was awesome. It was going to be the future. It may still be, but not on live.
The way I look at streaming, let's take PC gaming. PC gaming is okay. I build a box, I buy a box, laptop, desktop, whatever. And 2-3 years you upgrade stuff. I know the generic cycle for GPUs is about 18 months. CPUs is about the same cycle. Every 18 months there's a new iteration of stuff that comes out. Ryzen or Intel's 10th gen, 11th gen, whatever version that's going to have more security flaws.
Right.
So for me, that's a barrier to entry. $1,000 for a decent gaming laptop, or a decent gaming rig. You can get them cheaper, but that's a barrier to entry for some people. That to me is really concerning. Same thing with consoles. $200, $300, $400 for a console is kind of a barrier to entry to a lot of people. So anything that brings more people to the table, I'm fine with. What I'm not fine with is, let's just say, while I don't mind digital, the lack of potential ownership of there's a reason I'm a console collector. I still have this weird thing where if I buy it, I would like to own it. I do not like the idea of leasing every bit of software, hardware, whatever that I have. Not to mention the myriad of technical issues that come with the streaming stuff.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I like Netflix as much as the next guy, but gaming is an area where there is a lot of stuff. You can look at GeForce Now, you can look at Stadia, you can look at Shadow, you can look at, take your pick. They all suffer from the same problem. If your internet connection is not good, you will not be gaming.
Right. It's definitely a downfall.
So that is a thing, and a lot of people don't want to realize that not every person can afford to have an internet, like a constant high bandwidth internet connection. I know where I live, they like to have this weird thing and give you only a terabyte, and I'll let you assume what company that is.
Well, okay, so I fall in a different category as far as owning the games because, unlike your shelf back there where you have all those physical copies of games, PC gaming is slightly different than that. Because you don't buy physical copies anymore. Even if you buy a copy in the store, you put the CD key into Steam or into BattleNet or whatever, and you really don't have a physical copy. You end up downloading it anyway. And without the internet, you probably couldn't play that game anyway, just because of updates or some limitation. If Valve decided to shut down Steam tomorrow, you probably wouldn't be able to play any of those games, even though you technically own them. So I don't know if we own our games anymore, dude.
My take is, how do I say this? Valve has mentioned the "what if we go out of business" thing before. I tend to trust them more than any of the current publishers of other platforms, on PC specifically, than any of the other people. When Valve has said that, hey, if we go out of business, here's all your games, you'll have to download them probably by an X amount of time, but you can play them offline. I'm fine with that because Valve is at least shown that they have a track record of at least doing that. When a game gets delisted from a digital platform like a streaming service, it's gone.
Yep.
When a game gets delisted from Steam and I bought it, it's still there. That to me says a lot. I'll give a game as an example. Rocco, search on Steam for Neverwinter Nights 2 Complete Edition. You won't find it. Guess what? I own it though.
Why won't I find it?
Because it's been delisted. So, but yet, if you go to GOG, it's still there. So, yes, I buy stuff on Steam, but yes, I also buy stuff on GOG because GOG, you download it and it's there.
Right.
There are ways to have your entire Steam library downloaded and runnable offline, but I'm not going to talk about that. So it's a mentality. Like I get it for some. It's just for me. It's if it brings more players to the table, awesome. I think that this one size fits all approach is stupid, but I think it's a one size fits all approach for anything is stupid. It's limiting. It doesn't take into account every aspect that may or may not be around.
Right. Well, I'm pretty excited about it because I think it does open up doors for people who, okay, not everybody's going to have a good internet connection. Not everybody's going to be able to do this streaming games. But for those that are able to stream games, those that do have that good connection, it opens up the door and drops the barriers from not only them playing their games, not only buying extra hardware, but also doesn't matter what system they're running either then.
Mm-hmm. So. And that's the plot. Like that's their gamer nirvana. Like right there. It doesn't matter if I have a PS4 and I'm running an Xbox One game on it. Like, oh, hey, look, I can play Quantum Break on a PS. I'm not saying you can do this, but you can play Quantum Break on a PS4 as an example. Like that concept is amazingly cool to me.
Yep.
On the same note, I also have to take into consideration that I don't own the game of Quantum Break because it's on Xbox Game Pass or whatever. Like it's for some people it's a thing. It's kind of like music collectors. There are a lot of people who stream music, but there are people who still collect vinyl. There are still people who collect CDs and cassettes. Yeah. So it's a mindset for some.
Right. Well, dude, we got to head back to Linux.
Yeah, but gaming's fun too.
Gaming is fun, but there are so many other Linux questions to ask.
Sure.
So speaking of maybe software availability, or maybe your platform doesn't matter, is there any software that's not available for Linux that you think maybe it's not going to drive the masses, dude? Maybe it's not going to pull 1,000 people in, but would be a good thing for Linux to have?
Oh, man. I mean, I could give the atypical, I would like to see Microsoft Office on Linux. I mean, but honestly, for me, like, I can only speak for me. I can't speak for like drawing in other people. One piece of software I would love to see is there's a video editor for Windows that Corel puts out. It's Video Studio Ultimate, I believe, whatever X version they're on. I think the last release was 2019. It's such a great happy medium of a video editor between. It's a lot more feature complete than say Adobe Premiere Elements, but it's
right.
it's not Adobe Premiere Pro. It sits in that sweet spot of prosumer. It's got a lot of features and functions. One of them is motion tracking for like if you tag something, it'll track you throughout the frame. So like you can tag people. So if you're a coach or something and you tag something like that stuff to me would be totally awesome to see, because you can also kind of edit certain things like the workspace is customizable. Now, yes, I know we have Resolve, we have Lightworks and all the other stuff, but for me personally, like if there's one piece of software I would like to see, it would probably be that.
Right. Well, I haven't used a Corel product in years, but thinking back of when I used to use them, they always seem to be more user-friendly. They just allowed you to see what you were trying to do more than, say, Adobe or other programs.
Mm-hmm. It takes what Plasma says is, simple by design, powerful when needed, or whatever
Yeah.
their tag is, and actually implements it the right way as opposed to Plasma. Yes, as the Plasma guy, I'm throwing shade at Plasma, but but
You hold no boundaries.
does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. So if you were going to give Linux to somebody new, somebody came up to you, one of your friends, and they said, "Hey, I want to try Linux." Which distro would you give them?
I don't have a one distro solution. You have, for me, it's always been about looking at what they need as opposed to what I want to give them.
Right.
I think that's where a lot of people tend to fall flat. You're thinking in your terms and putting your view on it. You can say, well, I'm going to be the one supporting it, etc. Well, that kind of depends. If someone's getting new hardware or they're in the market for new hardware, I'm probably going to recommend Dell or System 76 because, well, you can get official support through, I believe, Canonical, who does the Dell support contracts for that portion. Or if you're going to go with System 76, they make Pop OS.
Yep.
So you're going to get support for your OS.
Yep.
And even if you're not paying, they still support like random questions from other people. So but for me, like it really depends on the person. If they always need the bleeding edge of software and hardware, probably some type of rolling distro is going to be better. I'm not always going to make that suggestion because as much as I like Arch and Solus and all the other distros that are rolling or OpenSUSE, well, okay, I won't go with that last one. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah. Sorry, Nate.
For me, you have to look at that person's needs. So I can't say a one size fits all approach. If somebody's coming from a Mac, I'm probably gonna be more inclined to give them something like Elementary, not because it's Mac, but it's the design around it and the way that they play, because it's similar to the mind frame that people from Mac OS are going to be using. And anybody who's used Mac OS will understand what I mean when I say that. It's not about aesthetics, it's not about that. There's a design UX experience, not a UI experience. And
Yep.
that's the difference. So it's stuff like that that you have to take into consideration. And I don't think a lot of people who make distro recommendations take that in consideration. When someone's coming from a Mac and you stick them on XFCE bare with no MX tweaks or anything like that kind of thing, or or like a peppermint tweaks like they do and that kind of stuff, like that's not going to be a great experience. Let's just be honest.
Right.
For a new user, first impressions do matter.
All right. So, do you believe that Linux is bad at marketing, Matt?
Oh boy. Is Linux bad at marketing? Linux is Companies who make Linux distros are bad at marketing. Yes, especially if it's their desktop product. So, unfortunately, I like Canonical, but I'm going to beat you up a little bit. You guys are not that good at marketing your desktop product to consumers. Thank you, Dell, for actually showing it at the last tech show there that you had alongside a Windows machine. That was great marketing. Now, if we could start doing more of that, like, oh, I don't know, in Best Buy or like a mom and pop computer shop, that's where we fall flat on our face. And a lot of that sometimes comes from uh, outside forces that you can't control.
Right.
But for people who sit there and talk about, oh, well, we're on the desktop and we promote the desktop and we do stuff on the desktop, that's awesome. Now, how about you start showing that to the outside world besides the echo chamber?
Well, I don't think, to be honest with you, that I don't think that's where their market is. Like, they have the desktop and but their main lion's share of the market, their market is not that. I mean,
And
I can't blame them for not
no,
sinking thousands of dollars into marketing desktop Linux because that's not where the
no,
money is.
no. Like I'm not saying, but on the same note, like you look at it and it's like, you you can look at Gnome as an example. Like 90, like I'm just spitballing numbers. Like don't quote me on it, but like a good portion of the Gnome developers they work for Red Hat or well IBM now, but whatever. The whole point is like Red Hat was just bought for last year for $34 billion.
Right.
Like, come on, like you can't spend 2 million to go and like promote your desktop. Like, give me a break, or maybe I don't know, pay some more developers to actually develop it. So maybe we can have a never mind. Uh, but like you can't promote Fedora, you can't promote CentOS outside of the server market. Like really, like we have one man band projects that do more promotion for like music than these guys do for promoting Linux outside of the echo chamber.
Well, as a Linux user, I would love to see the desktop being promoted like everywhere. But I still, like I said, that's just not where the money is, dude.
And I can tell you one thing, a company named System 76 might tell you otherwise, because why? They were just promoted with the recent Threadripper announcement by AMD.
Yep. I thought it was awesome, dude. I loved it.
So newsflash, that is what I mean by we generically stink at marketing. That's good marketing. You want to be the headline on an announcement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You don't want to be an afterthought. And that's why I actually commend Dell for a lot of the stuff they've done with Sputnik, or whatever the developer editions, and making a lot of their hardware work with Ubuntu. I just don't think Canonical, as a company that has that partnership with Dell, does enough to promote it. That was Dell does. Like Barton George is anytime he can talk about it, he gladly will, which is cool. But like you don't see it outside of like the Linux sphere, and that's
Right.
where we need to understand that we're bad at it. Like, we're in the Linux sphere, awesome. Can we get outside of that?
All right, dude. Have you been to any Linux conferences, and have you booked your tickets for Self 2020?
I have not booked my tickets for Self 2020 yet, to answer that question. And yes, I have actually been to two cons, same one, um, over in Philadelphia, and that is FOSSCon, ironically enough.
Okay.
Free and open
What
source software convention, for those that want to know.
What's the atmosphere like at FalseCon?
Very business.
Oh yeah.
For a conference about free and open source software, it's rather interesting when you hear the ping of Facebook Messenger beeping around. Um, there's a lot of preaching about good things, bad things, and all the other things. My first year I went, there was a talk that was given about why Linux marketing is bad, ironically enough. And some of the tools that are available are proprietary, and the people there are just so against it. And you look at them and you're like, you're literally using an Android phone or an iOS phone, and you're like, are you kidding me? So like, I'm not calling it hypocrisy, because that's not, at the end of the day, we need to get stuff done for,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
But like, if you're that ideological and you, yeah, you draw a line, to me, like, ideology is great, but where do you, where do you draw the line for practicality? And like some of these people are like, it's just, it's so business focused because like what they talk about is, business and servers and yada yada yada, all the typical stuff you would get like at that kind of convention, and how free software is great and it saved us thousands, millions of dollars, and all the other jazz. And then you get the ideologues that are there, but then you have like the ideologues who are sitting there using an Android phone, or like you're using the worst tracker thing possible. So it's like, so part of me wants to be like, I don't know. It's a weird convention to go to because like you hear Facebook, you hear like all these other things going off, and you're just like, oh, I know what that is. That's proprietary. Why are you using that? Like I don't care what you use personally. Like for me, like whatever. But
Well, that leads me to my next question. Are you that open source enthusiast that's going to ram open source down people's throats, or are you on that practical side?
I have a preference for open source. That's for me. I'm more of the pragmatist when it comes to other people. I'll make open source work for me, but I'm not going to cram my view of open source and that, wow, it's the right tool, down somebody else's throat. I'm not against using proprietary applications. One of the applications I actually need when I do a lot of my stuff is WPS Office, which, hey, guess what? Proprietary. Still better than, hate to break it, still better than LibreOffice. As much as I like, okay, I like an interface that looks like it's been designed in the last decade. I'm sorry. For me, it's just the thing. So, pick your battles for me. I have a preference for open source. I'll try all the open source alternatives. If they don't work, then it's not the right tool. So I'll move on. And I think a lot of people need to understand that. Like, you can have you can have ideals and principles and stuff philosophies that you want to stick behind, but sometimes cramming them down people's throats and force feeding, or trying to force feed it down, square peg round hole. Are you going to use the triangle to bash the square peg into the round hole? Like, like it doesn't work for all situations, and a lot of people tend to forget that too, which is and it's sad to see because it can put people off.
Yep.
And that's why I don't do it, and that's why I'm an open source guy, but I'm also a pragmatist.
Very nice. All right. So, what about what drives your passion for Linux? So, I started using Linux, and it was always about that I could customize it. That's one of the reasons why I switched, because I could do whatever I wanted with it. And then, after you see the community and see how great the community can be, that to me is a great thing now to run Linux. What drives your passion for running Linux?
One word, and that's control. My work, as an example, I have a video that actually showed like what customizations I make to KDE, or sorry, Plasma. Sorry, Michael. That what customizations I make for Plasma to suit my workflow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to, like, I can adapt to whatever I'm using. That's fine. But when I'm given free reign to come up with my own workflow, Plasma is what gives me that control. So that's why I use it. Like, just as an example, that particular video, I move all my, because I was a Unity user, so I move everything to the left. That includes the close and max minimize buttons.
Right.
But in KDE, I can get rid of the maximize button. Why do I need one if all I have to do is drag up or double click title bar?
I need the same exact thing, dude. I'm like, why do I need a maximize button? I just double click on the title bar and it maximizes it.
Exactly. So like I get rid of that. I keep the minimize button, but I also like my panel. I auto hide, but it's just the thing because I like a clean desktop. I like it's a Unity thing.
Right.
I want the application front and center. But I do this weird thing. If you actually look at when I pop out my menu, the X button doesn't coincide or get lost behind the actual menu when it pops out from the side. I do that so like I can close an application while still having like the menu, the mouse over it, workflow to me. So it's like I can close this
Right.
application and go right into the menu.
Yep.
So it's small stuff like that for me where like control matters. Windows is basically one size fits all. Mac OS, one size, like this is our vision, this is what you get. This is why I don't do well with things like elementary OS as much as I like a lot of the work that they do. It just doesn't work for me.
And that's
It,
okay.
and that totally okay. But
That you don't have to like every single distro or like the direction every single distro is going in. Some people like that, and that's good for them. And you are able to choose one like Plasma that you can switch whatever you want in it.
Exactly. So as far as being a Linux guy, totally, because it's about control. I determine what I control, what I don't want to control, and it's like when people ask me why I don't do Arch the Arch way, because part of me is lazy. Not gonna lie. Totally gonna be honest with that. I'm more of a nuke and pave and give me an operating system in 20 minutes. I don't want to sit at a CLI and stare at it. I have better things to do. So for me, control it's a balance of control. So that's why I would go with currently Endeavor is my thing that I've been using a lot more. I love that net installer. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I've tried weird desktops all over the.
You don't have to tell me, dude.
I don't know what you're inferring, Maniquari.
Yeah. I'm inferring that you try every weird, crazy distro out there. That's what I'm inferring.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't deny it, but no, like control is really the big reason for me. Control from information being sent to people, to diagnostic reports, take your pick. Like it's just top to bottom. I control what I want, what I don't want, and if there's something I like, I don't like. There's no in all of it though. There's no philosophical like, oh, I'm against this. Like it's just I can make it what I need it to be for me.
Right. Do you do any coding or scripting?
I have a few like just random cron jobs that I have, like I'll have sudo pacman, tech syu, to update the repos. I think like I have it set for like every 2 hours, just because it's Arch.
And because you're crazy that you'd want to update that often.
I'd rather me. That's besides the point. Oh wait, then that is the point.
That is the point.
No. For me, it's just like I do that because it's just I only do that on certain machines, like the production machine, where it's like, okay, when did NVIDIA spit out something? When did this application spit out?
That seems backwards to me, dude. That you would update so constantly on a production machine that you have to count on.
Well, here's the thing. Well, no, ironically, a lot of people would be like, well, you wouldn't normally do that on a rolling distro.
Right.
The difference is I don't have a lot of AUR stuff installed.
Oh, okay.
I have Yay enabled, but I don't install the only thing I install, and it's only because I'm playing with it right now, is I recently did a video on how to install Sinalira on Arch.
Right.
That is legit the only thing that I have built,
and that's not going to break your system if it updates.
Exactly. So the only stuff I'm pulling down is stuff that's legit, like not in the AUR. So the odds of me breaking the system, and it's usually plasma based stuff that I'm integrating into the system, is a whole lot less. So I'm not pulling in a lot of GTK stuff, barring probably the music player, which is Lollipop. But thanks, Jason, or you're welcome, Jason. I guess either or. So like I'm not pulling in a lot of cross dependency libraries and a lot of the other nonsense that happens when you start building stuff from the AUR.
Right. Matt, what do you think of when I say the term "You're the Linux desktop"?
When was that for you? As much sarcasm as that response actually has, that is actually what I believe. I do not ever thoroughly believe there is going to be a mass migration of the year of the Linux desktop.
Right.
I just don't think. I think the year of the Linux desktop is a personal thing. It happens for a user when it happens. I'll be honest, my year of the Linux desktop, where I was finally able to like, all right, if Windows goes away, well, it was probably 2012 for me. I hadn't
Right.
used, as my video show, I've been using Linux for years, but like when it became a total viable, okay, buy Windows, don't need Mac OS because I'm not going to pay $60,000 for a machine that you actually make that I want. Um, so for me, it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, it's a personal thing. Like
I
I'm
agree.
not, and I think those that are like keep 2020, 2019, 1817, all the way back to 99 that I remember, is the year of the Linux desktop. When did you switch? Or
Right.
when was it ready for you? And only you as the user can determine what ready is, not anybody else.
KDE 3.5.
If you want that, go use Trinity.
No, that's what I did want at the time. That was my, and I don't know the year that came out. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that would be the year of the Linux desktop for me.
And see that's the reason why I say that, because it's personal. For you, it was 3.5. For me, it was when Steam was available and I had less crashy video editors. Because
less crashy. I love it.
Okay, let's talk about Caden Live in 2012.
Oh my gosh.
Or OpenShot. As much as I love you, there were some problems with those particular programs.
There were some problems.
So it's personal. It really is.
Well, what if you could change something about Linux? If you could change like one thing, what would it be?
More cross distro. I'm trying to think of the right way to word that. Probably more cross distro participation. There always seems to be a lot. I'm not saying it's as prevalent, because people are like, oh well, they contribute upstream, and that's such a vague statement too. Like when, this is just an example, when Ike was working on stuff for Mate, or Martin's working on stuff for Solus to make snaps work, or Alan, stuff like that. Like I love seeing that kind of cross distribution participation, because it makes the entire ecosystem better, not just one distro.
Right.
And you can say that, well, supporting upstream does that. Yes, but also upstream doesn't always look at what a Solus will be looking at, or an Ubuntu Budgie will be looking at, or X, Y, or Z will be looking at as at a user level. Like as an example, I was talking to Dustin from Ubuntu Budgie, and one of the biggest things that irked me in Budgie, like I love Budgie because to me it's the right way to implement Gnome. There's enough customization, but there's enough hand holding and held back that it's not plasma all up in your face. So to me, like one of the biggest issues, and you probably noticed this because you're like that one pixel off guy,
maybe,
that if you put the dock on, like dock mode, and you have no applications, all those applets, the spacing looks god awful.
Yep.
If you add spacers, it looks fine. Like equal spacers, like adjust according to the applet.
Right.
But if it's just default, it looks god awful. And for me, it was one of those things where I just like, what is going on with this? This like, because it was in and the thing was, it was in Solus, so it's in Solus Budgie, and it's in Ubuntu Budgie. So I'm like, it's a cross distro thing here. Like
it's a budgie thing.
And Dustin was like, oh, just add some spacers and it looks better. And so like he just did small, like I'm not saying it's going to be a feature, but it's like he made a suggestion to, hey, maybe we should do this, because he's like, hey, now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it.
Right.
So
Dude, and people make fun of me because of the pixel thing, but dude, I mean, yeah, you especially, but once you're right, once you see something, you can't unsee it, dude.
Mm-hmm. Well, as much as I poke fun at your, your 1 pixel off or half a pixel off thing, I do see stuff like that. Like a lot of distros, as an example, they don't do the rounded corners well at all.
At all.
Gnome's guilty of this just as
Yes.
much as any other desktop environment. The only one that I've seen, and we can kind of harp back to why I try out weird distros, because the only distro that I've seen that actually does rounded corners well is one of those weird distros, which is Extern OS. If you actually try the beta and you look at how they're implementing stuff, they're the only ones that have gotten rounded corners right on the window decoration.
That's so superficial, Matt.
But it is superficial, but it's the superficial stuff that matters to the people that use it.
Yes,
because
I agree.
At the end of the day, we talk about first impressions mattering. These are like small paper cuts that people are like, oh, that looks cool, that looks interesting. If we still have stuff that looks like, from
1995,
if we're still using FEWM crystal or FEWM, some people find that aesthetically pleasing. More power to you. Or what's the other one? CDE, common desktop environment.
Yeah, CDE.
Sorry, they're not aesthetically pleasing to most people, and those impressions matter.
All right. So thinking back on the idea of wanting to customize and have control of your desktop, are they the only reasons that you switched to Linux? Are they now different from when you started?
Linux, when I first started, was, it gets labeled the hobbyist OS a lot. For me, it was always the secondary machine kind of thing. It was never the primary. Like when I was still in Windows, or yeah, it was Windows. Like I'm never a Mac guy. Let's be honest. Control is definitely a big deciding factor to always at least attempt Linux first, then I'll use the other. Once all my options have been extinguished to try, then okay, I'll use the other things that are there. But control really matters to me. Customization, you can wrap up all the things that people talk about with Linux. Oh, it's free. Oh, it's customizable. Oh, it's whatever X, Y, or Z reason. For me, it's always control will be probably the core reason of like, I can just make the system how I want it to be. And for me, I need the systems, and I view systems as appliances. So I just need it to do its job.
You got one thing to do.
Well, I see, ironically, a lot of people are looking for the general desktop, like a general operating system. I view Linux in more of a Unix way. You have one job, do it well.
Yep.
The secondary functions are nice, but it's not what I'm looking for.
All right, man. Is there anything else you want to share with people?
Just that if you are looking for communities in Linux, BigDaddyLinux Live. Saturday nights, 8 o'clock still? Been a while since I've been on.
It's been a while since you've been on. You need to come back.
Work, dude.
I know. Real life gets in the way.
Yeah, it's called that 3 a.m. thing. Like, Biddle, Tux Digital, Destination Linux, Linux for Everyone. There are so many great communities. If you are looking to actually try Linux or be knowledgeable or need help, go to these guys. Don't go to my channel for that.
That's a first.
I'm just being honest. No, like these are great communities and great members of the community in there. You're going to find distro makers, you'll find maintainers, you'll find everyday users of every skill level, pros, novices, etc. People, every end user you can think of.
Yep.
You know, people like Rocco who are very aesthetics and all that matters, and other people who are just like, I spent all day looking at a blinking cursor. You know, they don't care. So those are some great communities, and Linux really is a bunch of different communities, but they have the same core thing that they care about, and that's making Linux a better experience for everybody. How they get about that and get you to that experience and see the good things along with the few bad that you're going to have along your way. We all have them,
All have it.
and that's really what matters. Like the community and the various branches in it still make the whole tree.
How can people get in touch with you, Matt?
You can find my YouTube channel at Dark1 Linux Tech and Gaming. You can also get a hold of me on Twitter at Dark1LTG, and that is Dark, the number one LTG, because people think I spell it out because I'm, you know, weird that way. Shocking surprise. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. You can also get a hold of me at Dark1LTG at protonmail.com if you have stuff you want to email me about.
Very nice. Matt, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate being on, Rocco. Always great talking to you, bud. Never do it enough anymore.
We don't do it enough anymore. But see, here's the thing. You come on here and you talk about Linux with me, and I appreciate that. But I appreciate everything that you have done in the community. You're always helping out. Your YouTube channel, you know, we didn't get to talk about where you would send people to get help, but you are always helping people out. Your content may not be for everyone, but your content is helping people. You know, I tell people all the time that don't make the content you think you should make the content you want to make, because there are people out there that will be helped by that. Even if you may not get 1 billion views on that video, but for the people that it's helping, it's invaluable. And that's what your channel brings. It brings those things that maybe not everybody's looking for, but some of those people are looking for. Like you reached out to Lana and you made a video about, you know, how to enable the cube. That's awesome, dude. That's absolutely awesome. And I want to thank you for that.
Not a problem. Like I said, I enjoy the community. It's a great aspect of Linux. So,
all right, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us this week as we spotlight the best thing about Linux, our community. Until next time, long live Linux.